Here are the top stories for today, May 23, 2022. Congress prepares for the canvassing of votes for President and Vice President in the May 9 elections tomorrow. The Philippines is still unlikely to close its borders amid the spread of monkeypox worldwide. The US-ASEAN Summit sends strong signals for U.S. companies to invest in the Philippines. And Malacanang pays tribute to the late movie icon, Susan Roces. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. All certificates of canvass received by the Senate have been delivered before dawn today at the House of Representatives. The Senate transferred at 5 a.m. the COCs and election returns for the presidential and vice presidential race to the House of Representatives in Quezon City. The Senate received 156 of the total 173 COCs. The Senate will continue to receive the remaining 17 COCs tomorrow. At the same time, Congress is set to convene in a joint session to start the process of canvassing the votes. All is set for the special elections tomorrow in some areas in Lanao del Sur. The special polls will be held in 14 villages in 3 municipalities where the Commission on Elections declared failure of elections. The May 9 elections in 11 barangays in Tuburan were canceled because of serious threat of violence and intimidation. In the village of Ragayan in Butig Town, 798 ballots were stolen. And in Barangay Pindolanan in Binidayan, several vote counting machines were destroyed. COMELEC Commissioner George Erwin Garcia is reminding candidates in the May 9 elections to file their Statement of Contributions and Expenditures or SOSE on or before June 8, 2022. In a press briefing, Garcia said winning and losing candidates and parties are required by law to submit their full, true, and itemized SOSE within 30 days after Election Day. Those who will fail to submit their SOSE for the second time will be subject to perpetual disqualification to hold public office. Meanwhile, candidates that have exceeded their campaign spending limits may face possible election offense charges.
Lahat ay kinakailangan mag-file ng SOSE, nag-withdraw ka man o nagtuloy, natalo ka man o nanalo. Pero syempre, lagi tayong may cut-off. Sinasabi natin na dahil sa decision ng Supreme Court sa kaso ng Piñera versus COMELEC, naging kandidato lang sila sa unang araw ng campaign period, which in the case of the national position ay 90 days before the election, February 8. At in the case of the local position, March 25, which is 45 days before the election. So kung sila ay nag-withdraw outside of the campaign period, they are not yet considered candidates and therefore they are not yet required to submit their SOSE sa atin.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government slammed the group Contra Daya for spreading allegations of widespread fraud and failure of elections in the just concluded national and local polls. DILG spokesperson Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya said the group's shameless claim is an insult to the more than 37,000 public school teachers, government employees, and policemen who work to ensure the successful conduct of the elections. Malaya said Contra Daya's claim of alleged failure of the automated elections has no basis whatsoever. He explained that the source code running the automated election system of the Commission on Elections was subject to a thorough review. He also slammed Contra Daya for claiming widespread violence when in fact the 2022 polls is the safest. Malaya said that there are also safeguards in the voting process such as the parallel vote counting and random manual audit by poll watchdogs. Cavite's 7th District Representative Jesus Crispin Boying Remulla confirmed today that he has been tapped as the next Justice Secretary of presumptive President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. In an interview, Remulla said it is an honor and an opportunity to be considered for a cabinet post. Remulla vowed to look into the flaws in the justice system that needs to be corrected. He said among his plans is to investigate politically motivated killings and abuses under President Rodrigo Duterte's drug war. Remulla would, however, have to give up his post as congressman after winning his re-election bid, which means the COMELEC will arrange for special elections. Earlier, Marcos's chief of staff and spokesperson, practitioner Victor Rodriguez, was nominated for the position of executive secretary for the next administration. Rodriguez's nomination was officially announced by Marcos as the lawyer formally relinquished his post as his spokesperson. Rodriguez said it is an honor working with Marcos, adding that he believes he will serve the country efficiently and with unquestioned devotion. The Philippines is still unlikely to close its borders amid the outbreak of monkeypox in other countries. Special Advisor against COVID-19 Dr. Ted Herbosa said monkeypox is an old disease that is not airborne and as infectious as COVID-19. He said monkeypox is a relative of the already eradicated smallpox virus, which can be used to manufacture a vaccine. Monkeypox symptoms typically include fever, intense headache, muscle aches, back pain, low energy, swollen lymph nodes, and a skin rash or lesions. At least 92 confirmed and 28 suspected monkeypox cases have been reported in 12 countries. The World Health Organization said some cases were detected through sexual health services, particularly among men who have sex with men. Still ahead, the US-ASEAN Summit sends strong signals for U.S. companies to invest in the Philippines. The Anti-Red Tape Authority recommends a one-strike policy against driving schools and companies involved in fixing. We'll be back after a quick break. Keep it here on the PNA Newsroom.
Commander Dito Ocampo po ng Philippine Coast Guard Auxiliary para sa kumpanyang Disiplina Muna na pinangungunahan ng DILG. Bakit natin kailangan magpabakuna laban sa COVID-19? Dahil mahal mo ang iyong sarili, pamilya at bayan. Ang bakuna ang tiyak na paraan para tuluyang mapigilan ang pagkalat ng virus. May mga patunay na mababa ang porsyento ng pagkalat ng COVID-19 sa mga nabakunahan na. At matapos mabakunahan, malaki na ang tsansa na makabalik ka sa normal mong pamumuhay. Kaya tulad ko magparehistro na at magpabakuna na kontra COVID-19. Muli po, ako si Commander Dito Ocampo, Disiplina Muna Ambassador. Nagpapaalala, huwag matakot magpabakuna dahil bida ang may disiplina. Magparehistro tayo at magpabakuna para sa ligtas na pamilya, ligtas na bayan.
The Philippine Embassy in the United States hailed the success of the recent US-ASEAN Special Summit, saying it sends a strong message of pushing for deeper economic engagement between the United States and ASEAN member states. Hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden in Washington, D.C. on May 12 and 13, the embassy said deeper engagement strengthens the signals to American companies to invest in the Philippines. The embassy said U.S. support and investment, particularly on clean energy transition and sustainable infrastructure, will help transform communities and enable inclusive growth in the country. The US-ASEAN Special Summit, in a joint resolution, committed to continue cooperation for promoting trade and investment contributing to sustainable economic recovery and resilience in the region. The joint resolution signified its reaffirmation of the importance of the full and effective implementation of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año urges all local government units to go house to house and encourage vaccination against COVID-19. Anyo said this is one way to avert the possible community transmission of the new Omicron subvariant. Anyo said LGUs must tap their established pandemic health units such as the local COVID-19 task forces and the barangay health emergency response teams to avoid the spike in COVID cases. The Department of Health, or DOH, earlier confirmed that a Filipino who arrived from the Middle East on May 4 was found to be infected with Omicron subvariant BA.4. The BA.4 variant is said to be a variant of concern as it can either spread faster or cause worse illness. The public is reminded anew to continue adhering to minimum public health standards. Village volunteers are also urged to work with LGUs in identifying those who are eligible for vaccination. The daily average of new COVID-19 cases in the National Capital Region increased by 19% from May 13 to 19. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. has tested positive for COVID-19. This is the first time he contracted the disease despite being always out to lead the country's COVID-19 response. Galvez said he tested positive for COVID-19 after undergoing his weekly RT-PCR test yesterday. He said he is experiencing mild symptoms but remains in high spirits. He and his immediate family, who are all fully vaccinated and have received the booster shot, are currently under isolation. The Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, has recommended a stricter regulation and one-strike policy for driving schools and private companies involved in illegal activities. A series of entrapment operations and investigations revealed that most fixing activities involved collusion among LTO employees, driving schools, emission centers, and medical clinics. ARTA Secretary Jeremiah Belhica proposed the suspension of driving schools and private companies with substantiated complaints or prohibited practices while under investigation. Last week, a releasing officer assigned at LTO Novaliches was arrested for rendering illegal services to applicants for student permits. In our business news, the Bureau of Internal Revenue, or BIR, said it has jurisdiction to implement a closure order against MegaWorld Corporation in line with the auditing on the sale of some of the company's properties. BIR Revenue Region Number 8B South NCR said the enforcement activity, which was supposed to be held last May 18, involves the verification of taxes on one-time transactions on the sale and transfer of properties by MegaWorld. It claimed that MegaWorld's one-time transactions fall under the jurisdiction of the BIR regional offices. The BIR office said the real estate firm failed in its compliance and reportorial requirements under the tax code. It further said that MegaWorld has agreed to comply with the audit. MegaWorld earlier said records with the BIR will confirm that the real estate company has no outstanding or unpaid past tax liabilities needing any enforcement. MegaWorld said it has not received any closure order. More stories from the newsroom. The NTF-LCAC hails the loss of party list groups linked to the New People's Army and the elections. And Malacanang pays tribute to the late movie icon Susan Roces. Details ahead. Stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Follow me, Jones po, para sa kampanyang Disiplina Muna na pinangungunahan ng DILG. Bakit ba kailangan magparehistro sa pagpapabakuna laban sa COVID-19? Mahalaga magparehistro dahil ito ang unang step sa pagpapabakuna laban sa COVID-19. May 3 pamamaraan upang makapagrehistro ang isang Pilipino na nais mabakunahan. Una, ang online registration sa inyong local government unit o LGU. Pangalawa, ang pagpunta sa mga vaccination centers at pagkuha ng registration form. At pakikipag-ugnayan sa mga pinuno ng barangay o sa mga barangay health center. Tandaan, online, sa mga vaccination site o sa mga barangay health centers ang pagpaparehistro sa pagpapabakuna kontra COVID-19. Muli ako po si Paolo Medjones, Disiplina Muna Ambassador na nagpapaalala, huwag matakot magpabakuna. Bida ang may disiplina. Magparehistro at magpabakuna para ligtas ang pamilya, ligtas ang bayan. Disiplinadong Pilipino ay rehistrado para maging bakunado.
The National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict expressed elation over the loss of party list groups linked to the CPP, NPA, NDF in the May 9 elections. In a press statement, NTF-LCAC spokesperson and Communications Undersecretary Lorraine Badoy thanked Filipinos for not voting for red-linked party list groups Bayan Muna and Anak Pawis. She said the expulsion is notable because for 21 years, they have sat in Congress and used its power to destroy the people and obstruct important legislative work. However, Badoy noted that other left-leaning party list groups such as Kabataan remain in power. She blamed losing presidential candidate Vice President Leni Robredo's collusion with the CPP, NPA, NDF as a factor. Robredo's camp has repeatedly dismissed these allegations as red tagging. The NTF-LCAC has filed cases of disqualification and criminal cases against the CPP, NPA, NDF fronts and will file even more. A new People's Army commander yielded to government troops in Barangay Quiabo in Malitbog, Bukidnon on May 18, or 6 days after the surrender of his wife. 26-year-old alias Kajayto surrendered to the 16th Infantry Battalion under the 402nd Infantry Brigade following successive focused military operations. His wife, Renchi, a medic, returned to the fold of the law on May 12 due to the demands of motherhood, coupled with sleepless nights, fatigue, and extreme hunger. She has resolved on fostering a nurturing environment to raise her child away from violence. For his part, Jaito said that his longing to be reunited with his wife and child fueled his courage to leave the mountains. The 16 IB is providing initial assistance such as livelihood and skills training and enrollment to the Enhanced Comprehensive Local Integration Program or ECLIP to enable former rebels to start anew. The city government of Baguio will conduct a public hearing on May 25 to get input on the proposed increase in the entrance fee at the Botanical Garden, one of its most popular attractions. The City Environment and Parks Management Office will lead the public hearing at the Baguio Convention Center. The city government, through the Treasury Office, collects entrance fees at 5 pesos for children and 10 pesos for adults. The Botanical Garden underwent beautification that led to its closure in 2021. It was reopened on March 6, 2022, in time for the resumption of the Pagnagbenga Festival. In March, the city collected 800,000 pesos from entrance fees and over 1.5 million pesos in April. Malacanang expressed its condolences to the family of movie icon Susan Roces, who died Friday evening. Senator Grace Poe confirmed that Roces died peacefully in the United States. She was 80 years old. Poe honored Roces for being a daughter, mother, grandmother, a true Filipina, and a national treasure. In a statement, acting presidential spokesperson and communications secretary Martin Andanar said, Roces, also known as the Queen of Philippine cinema, is a big loss to the entertainment industry and to the lives she had touched. Roces is the wife of the late King of Philippine cinema Fernando Po Jr., who died in 2004. She started her career in show business in 1952 when she starred in Jose Nepomuceno's Mga Bituin ng Kinabukasan. Roces also starred in several iconic Filipino movies such as Daigdig Ko'y Ikaw, Gumising Ka Maruha, Patayin sa Sindak si Barbara, Maligno at Mano Po. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. Congress prepares for the canvassing of votes for President and Vice President in the May 9 elections tomorrow. The Philippines is still unlikely to close its borders amid the spread of monkeypox worldwide. The US-ASEAN Summit sends strong signals for US companies to invest in the Philippines. And Malacanang pays tribute to the late movie icon, Susan Roces. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19.
So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19.
Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.